my good buddy Ed Bouchette of the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette. And Ed, please tell me, what is going on in Pittsburgh right now?
Kirk, what isn't going on in Pittsburgh right now? Only this Antonio Brown story could knock out the Le'Veon Bell story.
Right.
Two huge All-Pros who almost surely won't be with this team next year. And, it's been one thing after another for a couple years now, and there's so much drama that has been involved with this team. It's a wonder they went 9-6-1 this year, not 6-9-1.
One of the things though too is I've said this before. Competing against the Steelers when I was in the National Football League was they were one of the more buttoned up organizations. Like when you played against the Steelers, there wasn't much talking. They would come out, run the football, play action, play great defense, shake your hand, and keep it moving. And now it seems that all of this drama is coming out each week, whether, like you mentioned, Brown, the Le'Veon Bell situation that happened at the beginning of the season, Ben Roethlisberger calling out teammates, Mike Tomlin have to answer questions each week, and I'm taking care of this internally. When did this all change for that organization?
It's been gradual, Kirk, but I think what's happened, I think it's more of not that they didn't have stars here before, but I think it's been fueled by the star system. I really do. The so-called killer bees with Ben Roethlisberger and Le'Veon Bell and Antonio Brown. If you want to add Martavis Bryant, right. He was part of the drama last year as well. So they just, they're on social media, and I'm not saying all of them, but they get on social media. And Antonio Brown had his own Instagram guy following them all over the place at practices. It's just it got out of hand, and I think what we're going to see is them try to put it back in the box by getting rid of some of these. Not getting rid of Antonio. Well, they'll probably trade Antonio Brown, but Le'Veon Bell will probably become a free agent. I don't think they're going to tag him again and leave on his own.
So, Ed, do you think next year we get ready, the 2019 NFL season, we get there week 1, the Pittsburgh Steelers, is Antonio Brown on that roster next year?
I don't think so. Just going by what the team president, Art Rooney, said, he doesn't envision that happening. And we talked to him yesterday, Art Rooney, and he still hasn't heard from Brown. Nobody has, at least nobody in charge. So it just seems like it can't happen at this point. They can't bring him back.
Ed Bouchette of the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette joining the Rich Eisen Show. Kirk Morrison here in for Rich. And Ed, who do we look to in terms of, is it the organization? Is it Mike Tomlin? Like not who do we blame here for, like you mentioned, the killer bees, but at some point, who is the person that has to put a stop to it?
Well, I think removing Antonio Brown is going to be a big part of doing that. They do have some team leaders in there, Marquise Pouncey, Cam Hayward, to name two of many, Ben Roethlisberger. And I wouldn't be surprised to see a big gathering sometime in the spring where they go over all this stuff because they have to put a stop to it. They went 13-3 through a whole lot of drama in 2017, but then got rubbed out by Jacksonville at home in the first playoff game. So they haven't been to a Super Bowl now in 10 years, and it's they have the talent to be doing that kind of thing. They've only won 3 playoff games since then.
Ed, in reading your article this morning and you talking about how Art Rooney has said that they're committed to a contract extension with Ben Roethlisberger and not so much Mike Tomlin, the head coach, yet. Like, how does that scenario play out? Is it ownership choosing quarterback over coach, or is it they are thinking an extension, but right now take care of the quarterback first before they can think about Mike Tomlin in the future?
Yeah, I think it's the latter, Kirk. They have to they want to get the players done first. Ben is due a $5 million roster bonus in March, and by doing a new contract, they could fold that into a signing bonus and lessen the pain on the cap this year. So that would be one priority. They have a while. Many times they've announced coaching extensions in training camp, so they have time there. Art did not say he won't do an extension. He didn't say he was going to do one either. But I'm sure they want to sit down and talk. Hey, I'm betting that Mike is going to want to raise on a new contract, and they might have an issue there. I don't know of how much it would be.
Ed, internally within the coaching staff, so we've seen guys leave, whether it's now we see Mike Munchak taking a job over in Denver. We know Todd Haley left the organization as the offensive coordinator. He goes and takes a job elsewhere. And then also, too, the comments of Bruce Arians, who's now the head coach in Tampa, talking about Antonio Brown as a diva wide receiver. Has there been a fraction within the coaching staff? And I forgot about the Joey Porter coach will not be back next year. How is Tomlin looking at his staff now?
Yeah, I think when Todd was here, he has that kind of personality that there may have been some kind of, fracture there, if you will, with some of the coaches, even though he did a good job coaching here. But now, Mike Munchak is a separate case. He left because his daughter and granddaughter are in Denver, and they said it was the only job he would have taken, and I believe him. He's 58 going on 59, and he said there's more to life than, basically football. But I don't think it's abnormal. They've made changes. The Bruce Arians one a number of years ago was Art Rooney made that change, did not renew his contract. Todd Haley, same thing. His contract wasn't renewed. But, you have coaching changes all the time on all teams. I don't think it's been abnormal there.
He's Ed Bouchette of the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette joining the Rich Eisen Show. Kirk Morrison in for Rich. But has Mike Tomlin maybe lost the locker room a little bit? And depending on how they handle the Antonio Brown, could he maybe regain that locker room if he's lost it?
Well, he lost Antonio Brown. I don't think he really lost the rest of the locker room. I think they respect him, and I think he's a good coach. But the Antonio Brown thing has just gotten bigger than anything. And he's been a burr in his butt for a while. Recall that Facebook Live video that Antonio Brown did in the locker room. I'm surprised they welcomed him back after that one. But he was such a good player, is such a good player, that you have to weigh one against the other, And just I'm writing another story on him today and looking at some of his stats are unbelievable.
Right.
Most ever receptions and yards in a 6-year period by any receiver in the history of the NFL. Just to name a few. And he led the league in touchdowns with 15 this year, a new Steelers record. So they've overlooked some of this stuff because of that, because he was such a good player. But it multiplied this year, and then it came to a head in that last week.
Ed, but, we talk about Antonio Brown, Le'Veon Bell before the season was going on with him. Mike Tomlin's always talked it, but it seems that the quarterback, Ben Roethlisberger, is either shielded from the criticism or kind of overlooked. Is it that way with you guys in Pittsburgh, or is that just something nationally that we kind of overlook that Ben is really above the problem?
I don't think he's much of the problem, Kirk. I mean, he's said a couple things to receivers. They weren't, terrible things.
Right.
I just pointed out a couple things. There have been quarterbacks who have done that in the past. I think he's performed. He's got a couple Super Bowl rings. I don't think Ben has been part of the problem. He certainly hasn't skipped out on his team the way Antonio Brown did. He hasn't missed an entire season like Le'Veon Bell did, right or wrong. I mean, that's his business. But he's always been there, and they really want to give him a new contract.
Last one for you, Ed, before I let you go. Outside of the drama of the Steelers, whether it's the guys who we've named, the Killer Bees, Brown, Bell, and Ben Roethlisberger, there's still some positives. But now as they point toward this offseason and they get ready for free agency and the draft, what is the biggest thing that you think this organization needs to get better at position-wise?
Well, there's two, and now there's three. The two are on defense. They still need linebackers. The Ryan Shazier injury set them back. They didn't replace him well enough this year. Cornerback, they need another cornerback because their first-round pick, Artie Burns, has been a big disappointment the last couple of years and was benched this year. And if they trade Antonio Brown, they're going to need another top-flight receiver.
Wow. That's a lot. Hopefully they can cover it all next year. Maybe the compensation, if they do trade Antonio Brown, can get them to fill some of those gaps. Always a pleasure, man. Appreciate the time, Ed.
All right, Kirk, thanks for having me on.
Oh, no problem. Thank you. Ed Bouchette there of the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette.
The Rich Eisen Show, weekdays at noon Eastern on Audience.